Hello, and welcome back to Empowered and Unstoppable, the podcast for women who are done pretending they're fine when they're really falling apart inside and are ready to rise into the version of themselves that they actually want to live with. I'm your host, Megan Bonnell, your life coach, speaker, mom of four. Man, holiday seasons with four kids. I'm telling you guys, survivor turned thriver and professional igniter of women who forgot how damn powerful they are, which is exactly why we're here. Here on this show, we talk about what it takes to build a 10 out of 10 life, not the polished, pretend everything is perfect kind, but the real, raw, aligned, holy crud, I love waking up kind of life. Welcome to Empowered and Unstoppable, the show where high-achieving women crush self-doubt, ditch imposter syndrome, and step boldly into their greatness. I'm your host, Megan Bonnell, and together we'll unlock the mindset, strategies, and confidence you need to create unstoppable success on your terms. Let's dive in. So today, our guest is going to give you a whole sermon on healing, intention, identity, some lessons she's learned along the way, and what it looks like to really rebuild your life from the inside out. She's the kind of woman who doesn't just talk about mental health. She really, truly embodies it. She's equal parts ocean and fire, ever-changing, deeply grounded, powerful, and so soft all at the same time. She's a motivator, a mental health maven. That's one of my favorite things that she says, by the way. A wounded healer with warrior energy, and a woman who has walked through grief, anxiety, loss, burnout, identity shifts, all the things, and has gone through reinvention with more heart than most people bring to anything. She grew up adopted by incredible parents who taught her the golden rule. Thank you, parents, for that. She lost her mother far too young and walked through grief that rearranged her entire nervous system, if you will. She fought anxiety that nearly took her out. I know some of you listeners can relate to that. She survived toxic work cultures. Haven't we all been in situations like that almost broke her down? And then she did the bravest thing that we as women can do. She looked inward and she healed. She said no to corporate identity that was suffocating her. She said yes to becoming who she was actually meant to be. She's a student of life, a seeker, a sunset chaser, a summer soul. Love that. A beach bum, I think, is how she describes herself, and a woman who turned her pain into purpose. So today, she's a coach, and maybe a cook, I don't know, a soon-to-be marriage and family therapist, and a walking reminder that it's never too late to reinvent your entire life. So please welcome to the show, Danielle Zilg.
Thank you so much, Megan. Wow, what an introduction. Oh boy, I hope I can, big shoes to fill there.
Don't mess up. Don't mess up.
I know, no. Right? I know. I'm like, oh boy.
All true and so much more. And I know that we're going to have an incredible conversation today. But before we dive in to the delicious Danielle stuff, I have my favorite question that I get to start with. Are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go for it.
What is something weird, quirky, or just totally human about you? Something that your clients or your followers might never guess in a million years?
Oh, something weird, quirky. I mean, I don't know if this is something they would never guess, but I am a struggling perfectionist. Like, I tell my clients all the time, perfection doesn't exist. But here I am sitting in the background, like, oh yeah, like let me repost that. That doesn't look right. Or oh, like I'm not I am. I say struggling because I feel like it's just always going to be part of me. I worked with my therapist on it. It's my perfectionism part. I'm like, it's there. It's just always going to be there. Like I was that kid my mom used to tell me when I was little, where like, you think like maybe your parents, kind of like they wanted me to like, maybe that's sometimes people like their parents want them to be perfect. No, like my parents loved me for who I was, flaws and all. But like my mom used to tell me that I literally, when I was like 2 or 3 years old, would like like the seams on that go on your socks, on your toes, that you don't even see in the shoe.
Yeah.
I needed them to be perfectly lined on my toes. And like people don't even see them. They're like, Danielle, like, people don't even see these. I was like, but like for me, they matter. Like they were in my shoe. Like that, like I'm like, I was born a perfectionist, unfortunately.
I love it. Have you ever named parts of your personality?
No, I haven't, but I do I label them as like parts of myself. So like I know when the perfectionist part's coming out, I'm like, Right, like that's your perfectionism part, or that's your, self-critic coming out, like,
Yep.
like that's like, the evil Danielle, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody gave me that tip a while ago, and it's fun and also allows you to get back to your kind of logic brain. So
It does,
my like
yeah.
self-critic, I apologize if any of you out there are named Brittany, but my self-critic is named
Brittany.
Brittany. And so I'm like, Brittany, is that you again? Like, are you really telling the truth or are you just being critical? Right. And then I
Oh,
also have a perfectionist part of me, and her name's Penelope. And I'm like,
ooh, okay.
Penelope, I need you to sit down just for like a minute. Okay. Because we need to get this done. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The lines on my socks don't have to be straight. Penelope,
Yeah.
sit down. Sit down.
Yeah, I was a very odd child.
I love it. I
That
love it.
bothered me as a kid. Like, there were so many other things in the world that could have bothered me. And I'm like, the lines in my socks aren't straight. Like,
Well,
help
I feel
me.
like it could be worse. I feel like that's great and hilarious. I would definitely say that that is a quirky, plain human kind of situation. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing.
No problem. Of
All
course.
right. We're going to literally dive in right now. You describe yourself as an ocean. See what I did?
I am an ocean.
Dive
Oh,
into
I
the
like the
water.
little pun. Yeah, a little
See
pun
what I
there.
did there? Yeah. So you have described yourself as an ocean, calm waters, storms, glass turned to treasure. And that metaphor it's beautiful and I think very revealing. Can you take us into a moment in your life when that storm maybe felt the loudest and the moment that you realized you weren't drowning, but that you were transforming instead?
Ooh, so I mean, there's definitely probably two moments that I can say, two very large storms in my life, where I kind of had that like not. I always say this, I didn't have breakdowns, I had breakthroughs. Like obviously
Yeah.
hindsight 2020, right? Like now that I'm looking back at my life, but I think the biggest one for me probably was when I really transformed was probably my last couple years in corporate America where I was in unfortunately toxic work environments. Just, it took a toll on my nervous system. I say to people, I was probably in survival mode for about 2 years and just, putting everything aside, just, doing my job, trying to, be the good employee, what have you, until literally my body said, no, Danielle, no more. Suffered from panic attacks, like the worst anxiety I've ever had, not sleeping. When I mean like not sleeping, like I literally didn't sleep for a week. Like I remember this vividly that like I was like it was just the oddest thing like not to sleep for a week. I was like this is not normal. So which ended up actually, I say this to a lot of my podcast guests and a lot of people know my story that it forced me to be I had to go on short-term disability at my job. Like I obviously got all the medical from my therapist and also the my psychiatric nurse I was working with got all the appropriate documentation, but I had to go on a leave from one of my jobs because my body was like, you can't survive like this anymore.
Yeah. And, I think it's really important to listen to our bodies. They have a lot to tell us, obviously, not in words. And that was your body screaming,
Literally.
literally screaming at you that, enough is enough. And I think that you're showing something that's even deeper than that to the women that are listening right now. Just because you're in a storm doesn't mean you are the storm. And
No.
sometimes you need to recognize the difference between the two and remove yourself and allow that storm to either not be a part of your life anymore or to calm. But that's not you, right? You're not
Exactly.
the storm. And sometimes that breaking, it feels like we're breaking, is actually the opening. Like you said, a lot of times that breaking becomes your breakthrough,
Mhm.
which is beautiful. I think so. You mentioned something though that I definitely want to talk about because when
Yeah.
we talked before, you had talked about how you live with anxiety. And I
Yes.
know that so many women listening probably struggle with anxiety or
Mhm.
abandonment wounds, attachment
Mhm.
patterns they don't even recognize, like all things that you have
Yep.
experienced with. And you've shared very publicly that being adopted really shaped your attachment style in ways that
Correct.
you didn't understand truly until you were an adult. First of all, we could probably explain what that means, but also, can you tell us about that time when you actually connected those dots, when you realized, oh, this isn't just a personality, this is a pain with a story?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So after my stint in corporate America, when I really truly started to transform and go through the stages of change, which for me was becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a coach, and also going back to school to be a therapist because I want to do both. um in my therapy program, my marriage and family therapy program that I'm currently in, I started learning about attachment theory, and I was like, huh, an attachment theory, for those of you who don't know, are basically, from layman's terms, is the relationship you have with your first caregiver, whether it be a mother, a father, another, family member, really does impact how you act in your relationships moving forward. So there are four main attachments theories, and I am anxiously attached, which means that I have that abandonment wound. And I actually learned in my classes and going through it, because I never had put two and two together. Like, I mean, I did, but I was just like, oh yeah, like I'm adopted, like that's great. Like I was given so much love and so much, unconditional love just from the get-go. How could I have this wound? But it took me actually like learning about it in school, as well as doing work with my own personal therapist, to realize like just that instance of being separated from my mother when I was younger, like I mean at birth, how it impacted my relational skills as an adult. And I'm not saying I'm not a people collector. I'm very quality over quantity, but I will say every time, even, and I learned this when I lost my adopted mother, like that grief hit me probably harder. Like you talk about your body, listening to your body, the body does keep the score. Like I think I probably grieved the hardest out of my family. And it wasn't until I like did a lot of inner work, started my therapy program, that I was like, wow, like the reason why it hit so hard is because I technically lost. Some actually had a professor tell me this, because we have to do a lot of reflective papers in my program, and she said to me, because I explained this in one of my papers, and she was like, Danielle, like you lost two mothers, and I was like, you're right. Like I had to actually have somebody tell me that, and that's when I kind of dug a little deeper. As I said, did more inner work, and I really do focus on my that I honestly, till this day, Megan, I've realized this, like, unfortunately, this abandonment wound, I've healed it, but it is still part of me. I still to this day do work with my therapist around that abandonment wound.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this is the thing that people don't get is your body, like you said, does keep the
Hmm.
score. And we can't heal, even if our body's screaming at us, what we don't understand, right?
Correct.
But the moment that you can name what it is that's going on, the moment you can put your finger on it, that's the moment you can take your power back and have it
Hmm.
stop running the show. It might
Exactly.
not go away, but now it's not in charge, right? Now the power is back where it belongs, which is with you and your logic and, your body and
Exactly.
your emotional control, instead of having it hijacked by something, that's running in the background and you didn't even know. And so it's crazy that it took you going through to a therapy, school to be a therapist to find it. But I'm so glad that you did, because now you get
Thank
to do
you.
the inner work on that in specific, which is great. And so I have way more questions, but I do have
Yeah,
a question
ask
that
away.
popped into my head as you were talking about that you are an entrepreneur and a coach, that you're going to go get your MFT so that you can do both. Tell me why. Tell us why you think
Yeah.
it's so important to be this coach that you are and still go to become a marriage family therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's somebody I actually just posted this on Instagram, like so I could just
Shoot,
read
I
it
should have
on my
followed. I should have
Instagram and
followed.
read the caption. No, I was kidding. And but I've learned as a coach. So as you know, as a coach, right? For coaching, we move forward. We take, but there is reflection and things that you have to do. I call it like the pre-work before we can really move forward. And working with my clients, I've found that there is that level of like pre-work and looking in before we can truly do the work to move
Yep.
forward. Because if you don't do that work, then we can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So doing, and also too, I will say my own mental health journey has been an inspiration to becoming a therapist. Therapy literally changed my life for the better. And whatever works for you. I'm not saying go
Hmm.
out and get a therapist, or what, a coaching, it could be, a spiritual guide, what have you. But for me, therapy was like changed my life. And I was like, you know what? I want to be in this world. And also too, I want to always like grow and change as a person. There is no other field that I have found. I mean, coaching is very similar, I will say, that pushes you, challenges you, helps like gets you outside of your comfort zone, see different perspectives other than the therapy, the therapeutic world, the mental
Yeah.
health world. It really does push you to always continuously grow. That's actually why I went into marketing originally when I was fresh out of school and, wide-eyed into corporate America. And because I wanted to always grow in my career. And now with the world, I mean, you always do grow in marketing, a different kind of growth.
Yeah.
But I think it's really and also too, I've been posting a lot about this lately because I think around you mentioned the holidays and everything. Like I always want to be, I have this saying, and when everybody asks me, like, you ask me why I want to be a therapist, why I want to do both, but there's a difference between being a human being and being human, and only few know the difference. So really want to be part of that select few that knows what it's like to actually be human and not just like a human being. And I really do think mental health professionals are masters of that.
I love it. I love it. And you obviously raised your hand that you needed help. What was the moment, even if it was messy, that made you say, I need help. I need support. I can't carry this. I can't fix this on my own. You're listening to another episode of Empowered and Unstoppable. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Are you ready to take your success to the next level? Visit www.meganbonnellcoaching.com.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I want to just tell everybody and validate like there is no shame in asking for help. As I mentioned, as a struggling perfectionist, we want to just do it all and there's no shame in it. I really do think it was you know, getting I hate to I hate to say this, but like it was like rock bottom. I mean, I felt awful. I wasn't sleeping. I was having panic attacks. Like my like it was like I there was no other avenue because I couldn't even help myself. It wasn't even desperation. I won't even call it that. It was just I was just at that point where I was like, I don't know what else to do right now other than to
Mm-hmm.
get professional help. And I was already seeing a therapist and I was like trying to but like and then that's also when I started getting medicated when I had that little dip in my corporate career. But there was really no other choice. I was like it was pretty much like it's this or like not survive this. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's not the like not to be dramatic, but I was like
But that's not an
the
option.
alternative is not gonna like I'm not going that way. So we have to get help now. And that's where I really like, that switch in my mind went off and I was like, there's no other option but to get help.
Yeah. Well, and I think as women, especially, we are taught to white knuckle our way through pain,
Mhm.
right? We are just taught that we can carry a lot, wear all the hats, do it on our own with a smile on our face, right? Like can't fall apart. But real strength is knowing when to stop surviving and
Yes.
start healing so that
Yes.
you can live, because that screaming that your body is telling you, that constant unhappiness, that constant need for you don't even know what, that's just surviving, and that's no way to live,
Not a way to
obviously.
live. Yep.
No.
And I
And
think
so yeah, I think that real strength is when you're willing to raise your hand and say, I need help. And it doesn't matter what kind of help it is. Maybe it's therapy, maybe it's coaching, maybe it's a business coach, maybe it's a fitness coach, maybe like there's all kinds of
maybe it's
people
just
to
also
help.
like a friend. It could be just
It
having a
could be.
really raw, honest conversation. And I think that's like that's why, I love that we're having this conversation on your podcast and giving women the ability to be vulnerable. I think
Yes.
that's so important and not be all polished and because we live in this world like yes, oh yes, this person has it all. It's like yeah, but they have it all and they're falling apart inside. Like as you said, like in similar to the work with you do with your clients. Like I wake up every morning and I say this all the time. It is a high you can't buy. I mean, not ever, all right, let's be honest. Like, all right, so some days I'm like, I live in New Jersey. It's a little cold. I do want to like, stay under the covers a little bit more, a little bit longer now that it's
Yeah.
winter. But like for the most part, I wake up with a purpose, with intention. I can feel my nervous system is regulated. And like to go from how I feel now to how I felt probably like 3 years ago. I mean, it took a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It takes a lot of work, but I'm so proud of where how I got here today. And I don't know how else I would have gotten there without unfortunately going through that process. Because it gave me a lot of, wisdom. It gave me a lot of strength. It that I tell people all the time, you like the programs that I sell. I'm like, do you think I'm like ChatGPT did not make this up? I was like, Danielle put herself through my
Mm-hmm.
programs literally step by step. So, I'm living proof that if you do the work, it works.
Yeah, it's crazy. The work works.
It works if you work it.
Yeah. I think that your story is so relatable because I think you had what a lot of women listening probably have, a job that looked incredibly
Yes.
impressive,
Hmm.
but was soul crushing, right?
Hmm.
Toxic culture, your anxiety attacks, your nights not sleeping, days disassociating through meetings, right? Like, and then
Yep.
you had that moment, right? Like the F it moment, that moment where you looked at your life and you said, I'm not living like this. I'm
Hmm.
going to do something that lights me up.
Correct.
So take us to that moment. Like, what did you risk when you decided to
Oh,
do this
yeah.
massive shift, right? But most importantly, too, what did you reclaim in that time when you're like, we're changing it up, people?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I risked it all. I mean, I don't have a family yet. But I'm an adult. I have a home, I have a mortgage, and all this stuff. And I mean, I risked it all. I mean, I could lose my house if I didn't, what I mean, have money to bring in to pay my bills. I could have lost a lot of my car. I could have lost pretty much every physical thing, every material thing in the world. But what I really claimed and really took a hold of was really my power and my worth. I will say, even though it wasn't the most pretty road, it's never pretty.
No,
It's
it's
like
always messy, messy,
it
messy.
goes it goes through you go through the trenches, but I came out a stronger, a more resilient, a more, and I will say more compassionate human. I know that sounds a little weird, but like, because you think like, oh yes, I said words like worth and power, but I look at people very differently now, being a coach, being a therapist in training. When somebody acts a certain way, or maybe is really defensive, or maybe is like not the kindest, I see that and I'm like, ooh, like you just need some healing. Like I don't run
You
up to them
just
and
need
say
a
that, but I'm
hug.
just like, but instead of, maybe where old version of Danielle would have taken that personally or would
Hmm.
have been like, oh, like F that person. But like, no, like I look at people, and not to say I let people walk all over me. I definitely, have a backbone, but I see the world very differently now that I'm on this journey. If with entrepreneurship, I'm sure you can also say like if you want to figure out who you are, start a business.
Start a
Like
business. Yep.
like that's like if you want to know who you truly are, start a business, risk it all. And I think us entrepreneurs, we're just very risk averse, which what I love
Hmm.
about us. And that's what I learned also too, that like you can like I am able to take risks. Like it's okay to that's where the true growth happens. Like, and I will
Hmm.
say, like, I've always, and I've committed my life to this. I know everybody doesn't, but I have that I will always grow. And actually, it's so funny. I actually had somebody, last week text me and like, it was a very, very loose, like, acquaintance. And they were like, wow, you've changed a lot. And I was like, and like I was kind of like
Yep.
go on like and then I was like yeah like that's the point of life is to change and to grow like sitting still and staying where I am is like probably like my biggest fear in life.
Yeah. I love it. Well, and I think, I love that you took that risk.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
anybody that started a business took a risk, right? And there's so many
Yeah.
things you can lose. And I think so often we stay in environments that make us physically sick, mentally sick, right? Because
Hmm.
we're afraid of disappointing people or we're afraid of what we might lose. But even if you disappoint the system, even if you lose a life you're surviving, you're
Mhm.
saving yourself. And
Yep.
that is a power move. And I love that you said something that you reclaimed was your power, because that's
Yeah.
absolutely what putting yourself into a better situation looks like. Even if it's risky, even if it's messy, even if it's hard, you're saving yourself so that you can have
Yeah.
the life that you're living, which I love.
Absolutely.
And so you had this massive career shift at
Yep.
35, right?
Yeah. At 35, yeah.
You started over, you went back to school, you built your coaching business from the ground up, and you did it while you were healing, while managing your
Yes.
anxiety, while
Yeah.
rebuilding your identity, right? What do you want every woman listening, especially those who think it's too late, to know about becoming whole and not perfect?
Well, it's never too late. And so stop saying that limiting belief to yourself because honestly, I it's just you really have to reframe. I mean, to use a therapeutic term, you have to just it's all about mindset. I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken away. Is that you are just like it's you, whatever path you think you're on or whatever you know whatever society says like screw it and just do what lights you up, and if you can't find it, invest in yourself. That's the one thing that I think that we live in a society nowadays that like you know what I mean. I actually ask my clients this. I'll share a little of my secret sauce. I asked them at the beginning of our work together, I say, I have three questions for you, very simple. I go, what's your most lucrative investment? What is your most valuable asset? And who is the most important relationship you have with? I get many answers, but at
I'm
the end of
sure.
my work with them, I want the answer to be you. And I think
Hmm.
that investing in yourself is never a bad idea. And I think we live in a society that we're like, oh yeah, we'll invest in the stock market. We'll, try to make money here. But if you actually like, how are you expected to get a return on yourself if you don't invest in yourself? So I always say if you want, like if you think it's too late, start doing some inner work, start investing in yourself, and that's where you rediscover yourself. And because self is something that changes over time. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
I'm a different version of myself than I was 2 years ago, and I hope a year from now I'm, whatever, Danielle
Hmm.
4.0, whatever version of Danielle we're on. But
Yeah.
if you just take the time to invest in yourself and pause, and then that's another thing too. I think we're always moving forward, 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 and that's another with my coaching clients I have to work on too. Sometimes coaching is pushing forward, but sometimes it's also reeling them in and being like, "No, let's sit here for a little bit and
Hmm.
reevaluate and see what's going on because we want to make sure well, I guess distance doesn't matter as much as direction. So
Hmm.
you can
Hmm.
go far, but in a wrong direction, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And I love that you say pause. That honestly, I think it has come up on almost every episode with, I mean, I've interviewed a ton of amazing women just like you,
Mhm.
and all of them at some point mention how important that is, and that pause that allows things to become clear for you to understand, for you to be intentional.
Yeah,
Because if you're just going, life's noise keeps you from being able to hear and feel exactly
exactly.
what you need to do, and that right there is so important. I also think so many women believe that reinvention, right? So, like Danielle 4.0, I'm on Megan chapter 29, right?
Yeah,
Like
right?
they think that that reinvention requires confidence. And I don't agree with that at all. I think it requires investment. Like you said,
Hmm.
sometimes that's time investment, sometimes it's money investment, sometimes
Hmm.
it's vulnerability, honest investment with another, in a conversation with a friend. But it requires that investment and honesty with yourself, because how often do we just cover up or lie or hide from our own selves, right? And we're right here.
Yeah.
But I think you are living proof that intention, doing that with intentionality, beats fear every single time, and that it's worth it. The work works. I love how you said that. The
Yeah.
work
Yeah,
works.
it worked. It does work. But I
Yeah.
will say it is, and that's what I tell my clients too. I'm sure you tell your clients too. I'm like, this is work. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, this didn't, and it does take pausing, yes, but it also doesn't happen overnight.
It
I think,
doesn't.
that's something that you're not, and like even I study the stages of change as a therapist, and that basically that's a lot of what therapy is helping people go through a change, or whether it be a life change, a grief, whatever, what have you. But you're helping it. Change is never easy. And it's supposed to be hard, I think, and it's supposed to,
Hmm.
challenge you and help you grow. Because as I said, for me, like staying in the same place is like death to me. Like
Yeah.
I'm like no, like I want to be somewhere, but that's what I chose for my life. And
Yeah.
that's what I want for my life, and that's one of my core values. And that's what I do actually a lot of work with my clients on core values, because that's your guiding light, that's your compass. If we can't figure those things out, you don't know where you're going.
You
If you
can't be intentional. Yeah.
Ex-
If you don't know what they are, you can't be intentional.
exactly.
And yeah, the work it's crazy because it's simple, but it's
It
not
is.
easy because easy and simple are not the same thing. And I
No.
often tell clients that this is the simplest and hardest thing that you've ever done. But
Hmm.
it really is simple. You just have to do it step by step by step. And it's hard, but you can do hard things because we've all done hard
Exactly.
things. We have a confidence
Exactly.
stack of things we can look back at. I love it. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, I have one final question for you, and then I want to know more about how we can get in touch with you. So,
Yeah.
if you had a magic sticky note
Oh
and
boy.
you could write a message on this magic sticky note and it magically appeared on every woman's bathroom mirror
Oh
in the
boy. That's
morning,
a good question.
what would it say?
You are worthy, because you
You
are.
are worthy.
That's one thing I think as I mentioned to you, I've really stepped into my worth. And I always say to people when everybody's like, "Oh, Danielle, what do you bring to the table?" And I'm like, first of all, I'm not a waitress. I don't bring anything to tables, which there's nothing wrong with being a waitress.
Yeah.
I worked in the food service industry. They work very hard, but I was like, I don't bring anything to the table because I'm the whole meal. So
Oh,
I
let's
think,
go.
yeah. So I think that we all as women, especially, need to be reminded that you are worthy. You are whole as you are. You are not broken. No, you know what I mean? If you want to, if you're the meal or you bring something to the table, whatever, or if you don't feel like you bring anything to the table, find another table. I think, like think about possibility, and that you matter. I think that's
Hmm.
no matter what age you are, what role you play, that you matter, like your life and we all have a gift, right? We all have a gift
Hmm.
that we bring into the world, and it's up to us to find out what that gift is, and then our purpose is to give it away.
Hmm.
So I think, like, if you just, as I said, if you we keep talking about go looking in helps you do that. And then
Hmm.
at what you find and what you discover is that's your gift that you bring to the world, and that you matter, and that you're worthy of every good thing, around you. But you do have to, put behaviors and things in action. You can't just
Hmm.
sit around and be like, yeah, you
Yeah.
actually have to, do take some action and live your life in alignment. But when you do, and that kind of that clicks, as I said, it's
I love it.
a high you can't buy. I said that
I
all the
love
time
it.
too.
I love it. A high you can't buy.
High
And
you
I
can't
do
buy.
love that sticky note. You are worthy.
You
Or
are
to you
worthy.
listeners out there, you can change it slightly and say, I am
Yes,
worthy.
yes, I am
And
worthy.
start believing that that's coming from you, that is something that is true and that you believe.
Yeah, and that's something too. I feel like we, as women, I'm sorry, I'll do my one last
No,
aside,
no, no,
is
you're
that
good.
we do look for like external validation a
All the
lot.
time.
And it's not about what anybody else thinks, it's how you feel about yourself. And if you can stand in your power and be comfortable in your own skin, like that to me is worth more than like any dollar amount. That's why, I mean, like in the world, like if you can just be, truly who you are and feel whole, oh, like no dollar amount can.
It's a high you can't
Yeah.
buy.
That's true. How you
Somebody
can't
somebody
buy.
told me that one time. I love
Yeah,
it.
right?
Well, Danielle, for anybody who is now obsessed with you like I am and how awesome
Oh,
you
thank
are,
you, Megan.
Where can they connect with you, follow you, work with you? Like, what are
Yeah.
their options? Dive deeper into the Danielle Z world. Where do they go?
Sure. So the best place to find me is actually on Instagram. I am quite the I'm a typical millennial, the IG. I grew up on IG and I'm like I love the IG life. So at Danielle.z.mft, or you can go to my website, daniellezmft.com. You can go out, there's a contact form up there. You can fill out the contact information. You can book anything. My website is also a great place to find any resources about my programs, one-on-one coaching, etc. So Instagram, and I would say website, Danielle ZMFT.
I love it. And so, if you are interested, those links will be in the show notes. So you can either navigate yourself or get some guidance there. And Danielle, I just want to say thank you. Your story and your honesty, your courage. I think it's the kind of conversation that a lot of women maybe needed to hear to wake up, because it can remind them that they can rebuild at any age, that they can heal wounds that they've carried for decades, that they can live with intention instead of on autopilot, and that their body is screaming at them, listen, look
Yeah.
inward, so that they can be intentional about the changes they make. So to everybody listening, your pain is not your identity, and your anxiety is not your destiny. Your past is not your poison. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to rewrite your story. And you, yes, you are absolutely already empowered and unstoppable. You just have to say yes to it. Danielle, your time here has been so beautiful. I appreciate everything that you have been willing to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan, for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. Well, go check out Danielle. Definitely come back next week. I'm your host, Megan Bonnell, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to Empowered and Unstoppable. If today's episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs a boost of empowerment. Are you ready to take your success to the next level? Visit www.meganbonnellcoaching.com. Remember, you're not just capable, you're unstoppable. See you next time.